What's good, ladies and gentlemen? What is good? It is your boy Cheats here. You are rocking with the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast. As always, the podcast is brought to you in partnership with Stilo Sports, the Players Alliance, Herencia 21, Number Game Scorecards, and Rebellion Harvest. Those last two, Number Game Scorecards and Rebellion Harvest, there is a discount code. If you put in Black Baseball Mixtape or you put in BBM, you will not only get a discount on those wonderful projects, the wonderful scorecards, the wonderful sunflower seeds, but you will also help support our show. So we're really looking forward to you doing that. Also, if you are checking us out live on Instagram, you will now know that the Black Baseball Mixtape podcast, especially these live editions that happen every Tuesday, every Thursday, and every Sunday throughout the World Series, will also stream live on YouTube. If you jump over to YouTube, you'll be able to leave a comment. We can post your comment. If you have a question, post it on YouTube. We'll be able to take it in. So we're really, really excited about that. Tonight's podcast is going to be awesome. We have a wonderful, wonderful panel of baseball experts. I will bring them in one at a time, but you are not going to believe who we have coming on the show. And I mean, just very, very distinguished brothers with amazing, amazing baseball knowledge. I'm going to bring on the first brother right now, my man, Alex. He's been on the podcast before. He has also just a wonderful baseball mind. He produces the ESPN Daily podcast now with our good brother Clinton Yates at the helm of that as well. But more importantly, and the reason why we're bringing on Alex first, because Alex is the winner of the first ever Black Baseball Mixtape Fantasy Baseball League. Clap it up for him. He is no stranger to fantasy baseball. He kicked my butt in his league last year. He kicked my butt in our league this year. Alex, how you feeling, my man?
I am feeling great. The last time I was in this restream situation, we were drafting our fantasy leagues for the BBM, our fantasy teams rather for the BBM league, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. I detected a little weakness in the rules there and kind of
figured out the system.
You got to learn how to read hieroglyphics if you're going to do any deep dives. So,
what was your key? Because again, you figured out the system, and I think it was closer heavy. But what was the key to your victory in Black Baseball Mixtape Fantasy Baseball?
So the main key to my victory was the bats that I drafted. I think there were only two. I kept no bench for 99% of the league. And once I detected that I could go closer heavy and pretty much equate, if not outstrip the value of starting pitchers, I just stocked up on bats. I mean, Lindor, Harper, Soto, like I was stocked offensively, and just keeping those guys in there, I got blessed. They stayed healthy. But yeah, man, I mean, saves counted about as much as wins.
Yep.
And blown saves counted less than losses.
And you figured that out early.
Mean, even with that, I dealt with Josh Hader being rocked in the beginning of the year. I dealt with Edwin Diaz being up and down and suspended and hurt. But yeah, that was the trick. And then it was the points that you got from the closers, but it was the ability to just take every bat I wanted in the first 6 or 7 rounds.
Well, you could have been like me and drafted Julio Rodriguez and Ronald Acuna, and then no matter what happened, it was not going to go well.
I'm not going near Acuna until he's a DH, man. That guy.
I had Trout, Acuna, and Rodriguez, and we'll talk about Rodriguez one of these days, but I don't know what happened to my brother this year. I was expecting big things from Julio Rodriguez. I think the world was too. So
yeah, sometimes early in your career, you spend that off season after a little bit of success and a little bit of money, maybe, bouncing around with a wicked type of crowd, having one too many brown liquors, and it catches up when you're supposed to be on the field. So
I don't know, but Alex, congratulations. We got to figure out what to get a Mets fan for a victory in fantasy baseball, but you're going to get something. Your name's going down in history in Black Baseball Mixtape lore, and we will figure this out, my brother. Also, before we bring in the panel, I just want to let you know, man, you're doing amazing work. I always follow ESPN Daily and what you and Clinton are putting together and cooking up. and it's obviously not just baseball, but everything that you guys cook up are pretty awesome. So
Well,
salute
real
to
quick, the
you.
Friday morning episode, we're recording this Thursday, Thursday night, October 25th. Tomorrow, we got the legend, Clinton calls her his baseball fairy godmother, Claire Smith, coming on
That is awesome.
to
It's so
talk
good.
Yankees, Dodgers history. So, I'm primed for this conversation. I just got it from the source, man.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're going to bring in our other panel members right now. And another Mets fan, the good brother Santos from the Baseball Aficionado. My guy. Last time you were on the podcast, bro, you brought in some real hot takes. We're
I
still
sure did.
we're
I
still
sure
talking
did.
about we're still talking
Sure
about your
did.
Ella De La Cruz take. Your Ella De La
That's
Cruz
right.
take might have been the hottest.
Yeah,
But
I got a lot of pushback for generally speaking by everybody for my Ellie De La Cruz take because um which whatever, it is what it is. He's a talented guy, but he's not a shortstop.
so
He's not a shortstop.
we're gonna get into all of it, but
I'm
also
with that, Santos. Nobody that big stays at shortstop. Pause. I mean,
No, he's not a shortstop. I want my shortstops like Barry Larkin. I want my shortstops like Lindor. I want my shortstops like Vizquel. Like I want little guys. I don't want big guys. Those guys look cute, looking nice in the uniform for certain people, right? Oh, big and strong. But it's like, no, like I want my shortstop who lasts. I want him to be on the field.
Well, look, I love it. I love look. I love you bringing it in hot. We're going to continue to do so. I'm going to bring in another one of the distinguished gentlemen here, Major League Baseball pitcher himself, Jay Jackson from the Brushback Podcast. I'm excited about you on the show, my brother. I always love what you're doing. I had my sweatshirt. I didn't wear my sweatshirt today, Jay.
I appreciate
welcome
it.
to the pod. Welcome to the pod, my brother.
I appreciate it. It's glad to be here. Glad to be here with everybody on here. So for sure.
And we just talked a little bit off season. I don't know how much we can share, but right now I know you're working out, getting back healthy.
Yeah.
And you said in the next couple months,
Yeah.
your first book is coming out.
First book will be out in the next couple months. We're shooting for first week of December right now. So we're on that.
And then is this the Jay Jackson story? The story of how?
No, not yet. Not yet. It's not done yet. Like I said, we're still trying to play next year, so it's not done yet. Can't throw the bio out there yet until everything's said and done. So we're not done with that yet. But this is just a little motivational book because people have asked me a bunch of times about like my mindset and how I've kind of kept it going throughout these years. And, going into next year will be year 18. So, people just ask me kind of like the grind. And like we talked about on the podcast is, Smiley J's situation, Smiley J's story, what the mindset behind it was. So it's just kind of an insight to that. So it's called 9 Innings to Living Your Best Life. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. It was a lot of heart and soul going into it. So.
Well, I've already said off the air. I will say it on the air. If you need like a host to do you all seen the book tours, right? Like, there's a host that sits with the person that wrote the book. Like, Valerie Jarrett sitting here, Michelle Obama sitting there. I will gladly be. Look, the BBM team. I would gladly be the straight person to you telling the stories of those 9 innings. Jay, welcome to the program, man. I'm excited to have you on, gentlemen. Let's get right into it because starting Friday is a World Series that is steeped in history. It's steeped in two of the obviously most iconic franchises in the history of baseball. It currently has two of the biggest stars in the game. Number 1 selling jersey in all of baseball, Shohei Ohtani. The number 3 selling jersey for 2024 is Aaron Judge. So we have gotten almost what I would call a generational World Series. And I can't wait. I'm excited for it. But let me ask Santos first. Am I hyping this up too much? Is this the World Series that everybody's been waiting to see, or is it just me?
No, being objective, it is. It is. I mean, this is. I complain all the time as a Mets fan. Obviously, deflated from the loss. I'm still trying to get over it. Right. I'm inconsolable. The whole thing. Right. But if we're being objective, I mean, you got star power all over. Soto and Judge, even Giancarlo Stanton, former MVP. Then you've got 3 former MVPs out west, obviously with Otani and Freeman, who's on one leg, but he's still Freeman, and obviously the great Mookie Betts. So it's yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Alex, what say you? I know you said you've been doing some work on this. You've been prepping on this. I've heard, not just obviously from my opinion, but I've heard from some of baseball's biggest historians that this World Series has the potential to be one of the kind of greatest matchups that we would see in our lifetime.
Well, I mean, this is definitely the one they wanted to see. All the networks wanted to see, and MLB front offices wanted to see. This one's crazy. It's the two biggest brands in the sport. This is this Yankees Dodgers thing is kind of like the history of baseball in a way, right? Like you go back and there's legends. It's Jackie, it's Koufax, it's Babe Ruth, it's Mickey Mantle, and it's really fitting that kind of, Francisco Lindor's ridiculous season aside, it's Otani and it's Aaron Judge, and like Juan Soto. When you have Juan Soto ranking as like third in Q rating in a series, like what are you talking about, bro? Like,
no, that's wild, dude. That's wild.
And then on top of that, it's New York and it's LA. Like this is what black and white baseball used to look like. Mm-hmm. Those clips you see from the 40s and 50s, mm-hmm. and this is exactly what I think the people in the baseball world wanted to see happen. It's not what I wanted to see happen. You got close. What are you gonna do?
Jay, as a player, look, you can't get too romanticized about two teams that you're not playing for in the World Series as an active player. But do you see this matchup and kind of assess objectively what it means for the sport? Do you get kind of the feels when you know it's these two clubs and these star players and all of that? Does it bring you back to childhood when you hear about the Yankees and the Dodgers being in the World Series?
I mean, my childhood was all Braves, so I was there. That was the 90s Braves, so it was just me. It was the Braves all day for me over on that side. But no, this is the one that baseball's been waiting to happen for how long now, right? Like, we've been waiting to see this. Everybody's been wanting to see the Yankees versus the Dodgers just somehow every year with the new playoff system and everything else. It's just whoever gets hot, and those teams just haven't been the hottest at those times, injuries and other things and just other teams getting hot. So this is the one that baseball's been waiting for, and I think a lot of the players have been waiting for it too, because that playoff bonus check's going to be real nice once it's all said and done for both teams. So, I mean,
ain't nobody on the Yankees.
Everybody's been waiting for this one for sure.
Check,
right. That might be these might be the two franchises that aren't worried about extra bumps, right? But
this is the one that everybody's been waiting for sure.
I do want to ask, fellas, because like you said, you all said, and I agree, that this is the series that MLB wanted to happen. However, I always look at these things in these kind of marquee matchups and ask, is this the series that could introduce new fans to the sport? Is this the series that could get the media that may not, who definitely weren't talking about the Diamondbacks and Rangers? That was, that was the C block to NFL, Thursday conversation, right? This series has the potential, in my mind, to be a series that leads the A block, has people talking about it on talk shows, have podcasts like Alex's podcast talking about it and getting excited about it, and a chance. Santos, I know you and I, we talked about this through the comments. This is not the series. No World Series is a series that's going to get new fans to the ballpark. They can't afford to go. But is this the series that may get, an introductory to casual people that may not necessarily be paying attention to baseball to say, let me see what this series is about, because it has Shohei and Judge and Soto and Stanton. Can this be that? Can this be a catalyst for a new baseball excitement?
Yeah, 100%.
I think so. I mean, if not this one, which one? I mean, you go to Europe. What are the two hats you see? They don't even know what a baseball looks like in a lot of these nations where they're soccer heavy, right? But they know the LA logo. They know the NY, the interlocking NY, and not the Mets NY, but the Yankee NY, right? So Yeah, I mean, if not this World Series, then which one?
And you know what jumps out to me? You have the two cities that are kind of like culture creators in this country. I don't want to throw any shade at Atlanta. Atlanta's in the mix too, but like it's New York, it's LA. And like I live in New York. I can't speak for LA, but just being outside, walking the dog, hopping on the subway. It's been about a month straight of just buzz where people are into it. Jets fans were out flashing their colors. The Yankee fans were like, okay, we see you. And it's crazy because you have, especially with young people and especially young people of color, this is the first time, if you're 23 or 24 or 25 or even younger, 2009 was the last time the Yankees were in the World Series.
That's true.
I don't know if the Mets in 2015 really moved the needle in the city for people that weren't already fans.
Right.
So like this is going to be something they're talking about in school in the morning. This is going to be something their uncles and friends and cousins are going to be thinking about and talking about. Like normally, once the Mets are out of it, I'm only going near the World Series as far as I need to for the podcast. But I'm gonna be tuned into this one.
And we talk, Alex, you hit it right on the head because what we're alluding to is culture. Like baseball, let's just be 100% honest, especially with young kids of color, a lot of families of color. Baseball has had a culture problem for a long time and still continues to have one to an extent. And obviously, platforms like this, the things that all of you gentlemen are doing, are working on kind of helping bring culture to the game. Jay, I think this World Series, based off of who we're talking about, whether you're white, black, Latino, Asian, the culture, if you're looking for it, you're going to find something.
Yep. No, 100%. This is it. This is the one for everybody. Like you said, it's the two hubs too. Like this is what these two teams were built for. Like we were talking about the Ohtani contract itself before the season started, right? About like, God, that's so much money. They've already made that money back. Easily made that money back. You know what I mean? Just from, again, the culture alone. Whenever you go and see Dodgers like videos now and pans of the Dodger Stadium, 40% of those fans are Japanese or Asian now because they're visiting LA for something. And who are they going to see? They're going to see the Dodgers so they can see Ohtani, Yamamoto, et cetera, right? Same thing. Like when all the big guys were in New York, whenever everybody was visiting New York, they were going to see the Yankees, right? Because Tanaka was there, Godzilla was there, Matsui was there. Like everybody was there. Like they put those stars in the biggest places for those reasons. Like I said, this is the World Series of all World Series for right now. It's got the star power, like you said, from every culture that you could ever ask for. And it's going to be nothing but star power and fun and excitement. And if you don't watch baseball, this is the time to watch baseball. 100%. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're at, like what you're doing. Basketball season's starting. And I guess there's more European players in the NBA now, so they might be taking that over. But for the most part, like if you're anybody else, this is the World Series that you need to be tuned in for because like somebody that represents you is in the World Series for sure.
For sure. And let me ask you, because Santos, we're talking about Soto, you're talking about Verdugo, you're talking about Teoscar Hernandez on the Dodger side, you're talking about Kike, you're talking about Luis Hill. Like there is a heavy Latin influence, obviously, in this World Series on both teams. They've got the opportunity to make a big impact when you are tuned in, dialed in, and just kind of immersed in Latin baseball. How excited is that community to see a Juan Soto play at such a high level, see Teoscar Hernandez play on the World Series?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Teoscar Hernandez is really one of those guys who you can rally around. I mean, he's kind of like he's a consummate professional. He's an underdog. And while he's not on the level, obviously, of a Soto's on a different planet. That's why I didn't bring him up yet. But, right, he's another stratosphere, right? But it's interesting, right? But with Teoscar Hernandez has a lot of fans, believe it or not. And he has a lot of fans. I mean, he has for given the kind of year he's had, and he's very humble. And he comes off as very likable. And so he's one of those guys who, you know how if you're a Met fan, we couldn't stand any of these guys, right? But, Hernandez was one of those guys who the Oscar I'm talking about, one of those guys who we like, he's that looks like a nice guy, right? So, whereas Kike Hernandez, we respect him, right? We all respect him, but if you're the other team, he's not very likable. But you got to watch him because he's clutch. So
Absolutely. Talk to me about, because I want to get into it before we really get into the games. You mentioned Soto is on a different planet, but Juan Soto is a Dominican playing in the Bronx. There's gotta be, you
yeah,
gotta love that. You gotta love this
yeah,
story. And if you're the Yankees, you have to re-sign him, right?
you have to. They are the only one to to me, and I'm gonna be very objective. Okay, I'm not the biggest Soto guy, but
Sure.
his impact is very much tangible. I mean, the impact is there monetarily,
100%.
interest wise, in between the lines, right? Does he do things that you're like, what is he? The Hulk Hogan thing after he hits the home runs. All right, he's into it. He's excited. Flexing, the shuffling, and all right, I could do without some of that. I'm a little old school in that regard. I like the emotion. I don't mind the emotion, but there's a line, right? There's a line. So like, I know if I were a pitcher, it would annoy me a little bit. The shuffling and stuff. I'd want to drill him a little sometimes, but he's a great player.
He's a great
He's a
player.
great player, and you got to sign him. Yankee, to me, it's the Yankees, and that's it. They're the only ones who I think should sign him.
I'm looking at Alex's face, and I got to bring him. Alex, Juan Soto. If you're the Yankees, you have to re-sign him, or no? Is there a
You have
possibility
to
that
try.
Soto goes somewhere else?
Yeah, there's a possibility. I mean, these guys are mercenaries, right? Like, look, the Yankees didn't draft Soto.
No.
He popped in there, after a trade. He was on San Diego. He was on Washington.
Yep.
Uh, I'm 40. I'm 43 years old, and my entire life I was a fan of a team that once in a while would go shopping at Barney's, but mostly was shopping at Costco, right?
Yes, yes.
Suddenly, over these last couple of years, we got an owner now who's looking the Steinbrenners right in the eye, like, oh yeah, I got that in my checkbook, I got that in my wallet, and
Right.
I don't know. You watch that team. The Mets needed a left-handed bat. I think for several years they needed a bat kind of to fit in the lineup around Alonso.
Yep.
We don't know if Pete's going to be back, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, there's no guarantee that Soto. I don't think Soto's coming back because pinstripes. You know what I mean? I think Soto's coming back because that's the best offer. And there may be a thing or two if offers are close that might make a difference to him. But like, listen, man, this guy's got one chance to get paid. He's going to sign a 13-year deal, a 15-year deal.
Yeah.
Santos was talking about kind of how he would be annoyed at him if he were a pitcher. Jay, you are a pitcher. How do cats like that like vibe with you? That's what I want to know. I'm curious.
You just got to get them out.
There it is.
That's the way I look at it. Like for me, like I used to be a hitter too, so I understand the feeling of like knowing that like you're that good against somebody and he knows that he's that good all the time. Like, so that's a different level of like how you play baseball, right? To know that like your eye seeing a pitch is that good that 9 out of 10 times you're right. Like I never got to feel that way. So for him to feel that way is unbelievable. But it doesn't get on my nerves, just like a guy pipping a home run doesn't get on my nerves anymore, just because I should have made a better pitch 9 times out of 10. Like, it's my fault that he hit the ball that far. And if I do make a mistake and he hits the ball that far, that's what he's supposed to do. That's what he's getting paid to do anyway. So if he wants to celebrate it, cool, because the odds are normally in my favor that I'm going to get him out. But the line is we don't get to celebrate every time we get a hitter out. Right? Like, if that was fair, like it would be kind of interesting, right? You can in certain situations, in big situations, but not like every out, because I mean that would be annoying. That would get, as a hitter, I'd be like, yo, like
it took me a long time of really watching and understanding baseball to understand that a hitter was really dialed in. You could tell the best way to tell if a hitter is really dialed in is on the pitches they take. And it took me a really long time to figure that out. But if they're taking the right pitches, those pitches that are right on the edge and they're so dialed in not to go for them, those pitchers' pitches, then you know you're in trouble. And when you look at some of Juan Soto's at bats, especially in the playoffs, even the, extra inning 3-run go ahead home run, look at that at bat and look at how on those pitches he were. Jay, I want to go back to Alex's question. When you're a pitcher and you see a hitter that's so dialed in that he's not going for the pitchers the pitcher wants you to go, even if you made a great pitch, do you say, I might be in trouble? Because you're going to have to either challenge or give in to a guy that's just really dialed in.
No, you can tell when you give in and when you don't, like 9 times out of 10, right? But for me, like, you just say, okay, I just got to make a better pitch. Because if you execute your pitch, he should get out. Like, that's what should happen. If he doesn't, okay, you go to the next guy, especially at that level. Again, he's getting paid a lot more than I was and ever will. But he's supposed to hit those pitches. Like, he knows the zone. He's supposed to hit those pitches. He's obviously getting paid more than I am, so he's supposed to do better than me, right? Like, he's the top at that extra level of Hall of Fame level where, like, those guys, if you make a mistake or the pitch is close 9 times, like, you're gonna be like, oh, well, he got his bat there. Like, oh, it's a hit. Like, somehow, like, those balls find holes more times than not when those guys are that good too, right? Like, somehow, like, when you hit 330 or 300, like, all those extra balls that get through for most guys that don't, like, those the 300 from the 275 or the 270.
And it has to be exhausting. And what I mean by that is we were talking about Soto. But we're talking about Soto, who bats second in a lineup. That's followed by Judge. That's followed by Stanton. That's followed by, Jazz. And then you go to the Dodgers side. You lead off with Shohei, who's followed by Mookie, who's followed by Freddie, who's followed by T.I. It has to be exhausting to be a major league pitcher facing these lineups. Alex, I want to ask you, because I asked Santos a similar question about the Latino influence in this series. Alex, I want to ask you because we do a thing on the Black Baseball Mixtape in the group chat in particular where we literally track the teams with the most American-born Black players all throughout the season. Like, where are the American-born Black players going? What's the count? What's the percentage? And so forth. Most people don't know this, and I think it's because of the way that the Yankees do business. But the Yankees were consistently, throughout the entire 2024 season, the team with one of the highest number of American-born Black players on the team. And so a lot of folks, we are dealing with this situation now, and this happens a lot in our community where, well, Mookie's Black, but can he move the needle? Judge is Black, but can he move the needle? Stan's Black, but can he move the needle? Trent Grisham, or even like Jazz. Most people don't know that Jazz was born in the Bahamas. Jazz Chisholm is not an American-born Black player, but he's still like the guy that has culture. Can any of these guys with the Yankees, usually I think routinely having about 5, when you talk about Stroman as well, having about 5 American-born Black players on the roster, and then obviously the biggest star, one of the biggest stars, maybe not bigger than Judge, but Mookie Betts is a star with his own podcast, and he's doing cameos, and he's in LA. Can any of these guys move the needle, or can this series move the needle for Black baseball fans?
I don't think any of the players can move the needle. I don't think that's the conversation anymore. I think the series can move the needle. I think that, like I alluded to earlier, I think that there's a 13-year-old that knows about the Yankees but hasn't really been watching baseball, and wherever they live, the Bronx, Harlem, downtown, in the suburbs somewhere, wherever they live. But there's somebody that's going to watch this series that's going to get into this sport. And I think that's really where the focus needs to be. It's not going to be the way Marcus Stroman wears his jersey that's going to do it. It's not going to be the way Aaron Judge flips his bat that's going to do it. I think it's going to have to be exciting baseball, compelling baseball, and it's going to have to create a scenario where somebody's watching and cares and didn't even realize necessarily that they cared until they reacted to what they saw. I just think that's where it is right now. And I think, like I said, this is going to be a series that's casually consumed at a higher rate than most other series just because it's LA and New York. So, Mookie is doing everything and everything we could ever ask for him. But
100%. You can't ask that man to do nothing else.
Well, because you mentioned it, Jay, and I think about this a lot because I'm a little bit older than you, but I think about that as a childhood. Is that even a fair question? I ask Alex because when I do think of the Braves of the 90s, I'm thinking of Ron Gant, Dave Justice, Terry Pendleton, Marquise Grissom, and it's like maybe it wasn't. I mean, Dave Justice might have been the star, like the star of the stars. You know what I mean? But like,
Yeah,
it
because
was
he had
also
Halle
kind of,
Berry.
it was kind of this. It was kind of he does. But I mean, culture, right? He has Halle Berry. He's doing his thing for the Braves. The Braves are in all the World Series. But when you look at that from a fan perspective, is it like the sum that the fact that the Braves just had so many kind of black players that made people, and they were in Atlanta, that made people think like, oh, I'm going to kind of rock with the Braves? Santos, you know what I'm talking about as well. I lost Alex for a second. Oh, he's back. Is that a fair question to ask of the Yankees? Because let's just be frank, Judge and Stanton and Grisham, they're different types of players. They're not Gant, Pendleton, Justice. You know what I mean?
Well, you also have to think about where Atlanta is. There's no other teams around there where the Yankees got to compete with Boston, the Mets. There's so many other teams over there, you know, the Orioles, you go further south. Like, there's so many places within driving distance, even though there's a ton of people there and a ton of culture there. There's so many teams that you can be like, hey, well, you like this one team, I don't like them. Where if you're in the Southeast, it was all Atlanta.
And
All the
TV
time.
and
Like,
TBS.
you know what I mean?
And
It was,
TBS was the only channel playing
yeah,
a
you
Braves
know what I
game.
mean? It was the Braves. You were either a Braves fan or a Cubs fan because it was WGN or TBS. Like,
that makes sense.
Those were the two. And if you love baseball, 9 times out of 10, you were watching the Braves because the Braves were, like you said, in the World Series and they were rocking with the culture for the most part. Like, they had a ton of guys that were coming through the system and they were taking guys in and they were winning. So you also have to take it as who's winning. Are the teams that are winning having, like, do they have a plethora of black players on the team, or is it the fact that like there's none on the team and they're winning without us? But also, like, the numbers already show that like for us to have a bunch of us on one team ain't gonna happen no way.
Like, I was gonna say, when you said plethora of black players on any team, plethora is not the number we need to use, right?
That's what I'm saying. But like,
the Yankees this season had a high number by all of baseball standards.
But they didn't market. But the
like
market
5.
for them, like but you didn't like. A lot of times you don't think of Stanton as being like a black player half the time. Honestly, like, you don't. And then Judge, like, they don't market him as well as they should to us.
Yep.
You see what I mean? They don't. Like, he should be like everywhere. Him and Mookie should be tearing up everywhere in the Northeast, the South, in the West Coast culture. Mook's already over there doing, like you said, as much as he can. Like, he's tapped in with everybody he could possibly be tapped in with.
I'm very sympathetic to Mookie because I didn't even think there was going to be that. There was a level on the podcast the last couple of episodes that almost turned into Mookie slander or like a litmus test on Mookie's attachment to culture. And I'm like, I was like, that's unfair. Like, because Mookie Betts is doing everything he possibly can do, and he's being authentically himself.
Right.
And if
that's
you
that's the thing.
You watch
you
Mookie Betts, right? If you watch Mookie Betts, know who Mookie Betts mentors, know what Mookie Betts does in the offseason. No, like, you know what I mean? You're like,
you see
there
where
will be
his
no
life
questions about his allegiance to our community and culture. But it's just this weird thing where it's like, sometimes you can't call it.
But that's just with baseball player. I think if you're a black baseball player in general, you already have that stigma, like, realistically. Because if I didn't tell people and people didn't go back to my hometown and see like where it is and how it was, even with my parents being where we grew up and where I grew up, and the differences, just because baseball is thought of as not like a tough sport compared to like basketball and football, where it's like, oh, like you got to go through certain stuff, even though we grind and do it and go through a lot more than people give us credit for. It's always looked at as like more of a privileged sport because of the cost of everything, because of the travel, because, you know, it just doesn't seem like you're getting as like in the dirt per se as like other sports, I would say. And especially like when you're growing up and all your friends are playing basketball and football, and you're the one kid's like, yeah, I'm going to go hang out with all the white kids and go play baseball.
And some of that is changing. I will tell you now, the wave of young players coming into this league
Oh,
But no
nice.
matter who it is, whether you're talking about Lawrence Butler or Jordan Walker or any of them, there is no question, no question, kind of firmly playing it. Will Benson, like all of them rap, all of them do all these things that are just attached to things that maybe, like I said, Mookie, who's older and a veteran, and you're not going to see Mookie featured on featured on an album probably in the next 5 years. But I'm telling you now, the new wave of this is coming when you talk about, like I said, Tamar and all those players. And I'm excited to see where that goes from I got a son who's 10 years old. I know what player he's more attached to James Wood than he is, you know what I mean? Some of the
No,
vets
hundred
that are playing
percent.
in this series. So, but let me ask this. Let me switch gears because we got a little bit of time. I want to talk about this series, and I want to talk about what's going to be the keys to success in this series. Santos, I'm going to start with you. Game 1 Friday, Chavez Ravine in LA. I do know, like we were talking about the makeup of the crowd, but we know it's going to be lit live all over the. I mean, it's going to be crazy at a perfect setting in a way for a World Series. What do you think the keys are? They've already announced it's Garrett Cole versus Jack Flaherty. What do you think the keys are to moving the first couple games in this series?
To me, I think the key is going to be to utilize for each team. It's going to be to utilize their strengths. So in the Yankees case, you have your ace, one of the top pitchers in all of baseball, in Garrett Cole. You need to take advantage of this pitching mismatch. Flaherty has moments, but he did not play well in the last game against the Mets. He didn't pitch well. Obviously, the first game he did, but the last time he did not pitch well. He's not a guy who he's not a guy who's super consistent. And so I think the Yankees need to take advantage of this. And they have most of the matchups that they want in the starting pitching. I think they got to get to that bullpen early. Not that the Dodgers bullpen is bad, but if you can get to the bullpen earlier than you'd like, then you can really put pressure on the Dodgers. For the Dodgers, for the Dodgers, their key is going to be with the Yankees. How long can they get? What can they get out of Flaherty? How long can he stay in the game? Because, like I said, Flaherty can either be really good or he can be a total mess. So what they have to do is continue to grind with the at bats, because they got it's going to be a grind for both sides. Both teams can hit. So you gotta make the Yankees go into their bullpen early. It's going to be a battle, I think, of bullpens. Both teams have good bullpens, and whoever gives the better starting pitching efforts on each side, I think, will come out on top.
Alex, historically, if you go through World Series, historically good pitching usually subdues good hitting in the postseason. When you look at, obviously, both of these lineups can absolutely match, especially if they get it going. What do you think is the key to like the first two games, Friday, Saturday in LA?
Yeah, I mean, the Dodgers have to contain Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. Everything with the Yankees starts and revolves around those two bats. And the Yankees were, in a way, really blessed to kind of get through the early stages of the postseason with Judge Cold. He heated up in the ALCS, or started heating up in the ALCS. I mean, you remember that series? I think it was the Cubs. Somebody was facing the Phillies, and they just wouldn't throw Bryce Harper a strike for like 5-6 at bats, and it really threw him off his game. That's almost got to be the approach to Soto and Judge. And I know they hit back to back, and you're not going to walk two guys, but there's not another bat in this Yankee lineup that really stirs the drink.
You're not afraid of Stanton?
I'm not. I think Stanton. Look, I mean, Stanton's an all-time great power hitter, but the guys I can't let beat me are Soto and Judge. Like I said, you're not going to walk two guys and put them on base for Stanton, but you've got to be able to manage them. I think what Santos said about the Yankees needing to get to the Dodgers bullpen early is huge, because the Dodgers really only have 3 healthy starting pitchers in the entire organization.
Right.
And, Yamamoto, Flaherty, and Buehler,
Yep.
If all 3 of them are on, you're in a lot of trouble. If 2 out of 3 of them are on, you're in a lot of trouble. If you can get to that Dodgers bullpen and force Dave Roberts to go to one or two of those high leverage arms in situations where he doesn't want to, you're going to have an opportunity to push this thing to 6 or 7 games. That's really where I look at it. Can the Dodgers contain those two big bats? And for the Yankees, can they get into that Dodger bullpen early?
Jay, let me ask you, because you are a relief pitcher. You come and in the postseason, we have seen repeatedly, like Alex was alluding to, we have seen repeatedly managers going to the pen earlier than they wanted to and having to keep their bullpen, like their reliever, in longer than they wanted to. And so it's been a theme throughout this postseason that a pitcher that might come in and face one or two batters is going into the second inning in the postseason because of just the lack of starting pitching. Mindset wise, if you're obviously in the World Series, you're going to do what you have to do. But does that really throw a pitcher off their game when they're usually only getting 3 outs and now they have to get 6?
No, not in the playoffs. Once you get to the playoffs, it's obviously all hands on deck, and it's whatever the team needs. And if you're the guy that's hot, you're going to throw. I mean, you look at these guys, how many innings they've had at this point throughout this World Series and this run that they've had. It reminds me a little bit of when I was in Japan my first year, and I literally pitched in like every game in the playoffs that we had except for like one. And we played in like 10 to 13 games. Like it was every day it was, hey, you're getting hot. And I'm like, yo, we're up 6 runs. Yo, we need to stop the momentum. It takes a lot to get this momentum back. Trust me. But they're like, no, it's the playoffs. Like, well, it's all hands on deck. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't throw you off your game because you know kind of what to expect. But like both guys were saying, it's whose bullpen's going to hold up the longest. I think the Yankees definitely have to get their starting pitchers to take over this series because they have the better starting pitchers right now. Honestly, they have to get through that because like
with Cole
as a bullpen guy. Because as a bullpen guy, like if I know I have to throw I know for sure I'm going to throw in 3 games because of how it's set up. But if I know I got to throw in 5 or 6 or 7, and then like you said, you're throwing 2 or 3 innings each time you're going out there, it's not the fact that like I want to go out there and do it or I'm hot. It's your body is just at that point, like you're gassed. You're doing everything possible, but at a certain point, you're throwing stuff up there and you're giving it everything you have, and it's just not moving the same way just because your body's not allowing you to make it happen. So I think, like both guys said, like it's whose bullpen's going to get used. If you can get to the Dodgers bullpen early, first of all, I have to throw this out. I can't pick the Dodgers for this World Series, period, just because of alliances and being a former Padre and a former Giant. So
I understand. I wasn't going to ask you. I was going to ask these 2 journalists. I wasn't going to ask.
I can't. The wifey would kill me first of all, but she's a diehard Giants fan, and being a former Giant and the battles that I've had with the Dodgers in every sense of my life, like I've had some of my greatest moments in baseball against the Dodgers. So I love the guys on the Dodgers, and if they were all on different teams, I would for sure root for their team. But being the Dodgers, and I love Doc Roberts too. He's one of my first guys that was in the dugout when I was in the big leagues with me. So again, if they were anywhere else, for sure, but got to go to Yanks. But like I said, bullpen. Get to the Dodgers bullpen early. As great as the Dodgers bullpen is, if you get to them early and you make them throw a lot, again, just human nature, your body's going to – and they've thrown a lot already. Like, you're just going to get tired. Like, you're shutting down.
So listening to what you're saying, let me ask you, Santos. So I'm coming in for a hot take here. Yamamoto. Is this smart or selfish? Because Yamamoto is very strict on exactly opposite of what Jay said. He's only going, what does he need? 6 days rest, no matter what. They're staggering the series basically for him to make sure he gets his full rest. Now he is coming back from injury, but he is not the guy. They're going bullpen games before they bring back Yamamoto on short rest. What do you make of him sticking to his regiment this season, even throughout the playoffs?
I think in any other situation or any other circumstance, I would be totally against it. I'm like, what are you doing? But in his situation, in his instance, I mean, for 2 reasons. One, they have way too much invested in him that they can't, they can't play around when it comes to that. I understand they want to win the World Series. Yes, that's very important. But they got this guy locked up for years, right? At a humongous salary. So they need to protect that investment. But number two, and I think most importantly, is obviously as you alluded to, most of the Japanese pitchers are accustomed to pitching once every 6th day, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's on the 6th day, right? So that's their routine. That's what he's used to. He's pitched for a long time in Japan. He's young, but he's been around. Yeah, so don't mess with that. If that, I understand it looks bad, it's not good optics, fine, but don't mess with that. If that's what gets him going, you want him to be at his very best in this situation anyway. So you don't want to play around. If that's what he needs, so be it. You don't, get the best out of him and hope that he pitches well if you're the Dodgers.
What, Alex, I'm going to ask you, because we talked a lot about just Soto and Judge and not letting them beat you. We talked a little bit about the Dodgers stars on the other side. We haven't talked that much about Shohei in regards to performance. How much pressure is on Shohei Ohtani?
I can't even imagine. Like, this is nuts. But I mean, we've seen him just eat pressure for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. At the end of the day, I think he, more than most players, kind of understands how to compartmentalize in a way to just kind of do what he needs to do up there. He's been preparing his whole life for this moment. It's a shame we didn't get to see him and Trout do this earlier. I look, there's going to be pressure on him. But, I mean, look, the guy, what is he, like 18 of his last 22 with men on base or something crazy like that? Like,
yeah, he's insane.
It's like he's too. I'm not saying he's dumb. He's not dumb. It's like he's too dumb to realize there's pressure in the moment. You know what I mean? He's just
right
up there cutting, and he likes the pitches he gets when guys are on base. He gonna be out there on second base doing that Dragon Ball Z fusion dance after he rips a double. Like that's the one guy I don't think, especially after watching him in 6 games against the Mets. You just can't. He's different, bro. He's just different. Like,
yeah, I was about to say, I don't think there's really any pressure on him because it's his first one. You know what I mean? Really? He's been in the league so long and he's been great for so long that if for some reason he doesn't have an incredible World Series, nobody's gonna be like, you shouldn't be like, oh well, like he sucks or whatever else. It's just gonna be like, yo, like they're gonna be back. It's the Dodgers. Like they got, like you said, they got Yamamoto locked up for a long time. They got Shohei locked up for a long time too. The boys are gonna probably be back at least a couple more times. So as he gets his feet under him in the World Series, because it's different. And again, he's also been in the Japan series. I can attest to that. I lost to his team in the Japan series.
We'll flip the script then, because Aaron Judge is on the other side of this. He is. It's been a long time coming for Judge. He's here now. He's got the contract. He's got the contract. How old is Aaron? Aaron's 29, 27. How old is Aaron?
31, I think
31.
31.
I just think he needs it just because of how he's played in the playoffs so far.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
I think that's it. Yeah. I don't think anything else of it.
How much? No, not just that. No, it's not just that. Listen. As we know, the pinstripes are heavy. No, you gotta win. You gotta win. That's period. In New York, that's all you hear. Aaron Judge has got to win. Period. Now, I'm not saying it's right. I didn't make up the rules, right? I'm not saying it's fair, right? I'm not saying it's fair. But when you are, that is the difference between you being DiMaggio or Mattingly.
Right.
That's just what it is.
He's right. Yo, these
no, he is right though. He's right. I give him that. Yeah, he is right.
These cats are out here.
There's levels to Yankeedom, like in stars, and like if you're the captain of the team, you're expected to get a championship.
These cats are out here on the A train, still acting like Jeter's lining up at shortstop tonight. Like they don't realize how long they still think Joe Torre is the manager. There's a lot of pressure. There's pressure on both of these teams because Claire told us Doc is the winningest manager by percentage in Major League Baseball history. And if they had lost to the Padres, he was going to be out.
He's out of there.
Right?
Yeah, gone.
And that COVID title, like I tease my boys that are Dodgers fans all the time about that COVID title. The Dodgers need a ring. The Yankees haven't won a ring since 2009. And Aaron Boone, all that's missing from his trophy case is that World Series ring. These are the two teams that were kind of built and have always been the two teams that the old school Nintendo RBI baseball, when you played the first game, it was the old school Yankees and the old school Dodgers in that joint. Like, they're supposed to be here doing this. And it's crazy because both of them need these rings. And like you said,
100%. I agree. They both need the ring.
Yeah.
Like I said, as far as pressure for Shohei or Judge, it's definitely Aaron's definitely got more. And that's just like you said, the rules weren't written by us, but the pinstripes are a little heavier than the Dodgers on that side because plus the Dodgers have the championship, even though people don't give them credit for it from 2020. But the Yankees definitely, they like you've got if you get there, as tough as the AL East is too, and you finally get there after all this time, you gotta win it. But
and the way those
he's just got to have a good series. If he has a good series, I think they win it too. But he's just got to have a good series. It can't be because he struggled this series that they lose it.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like for me,
100%, 100%.
If he bats like if he hits like a $150 or like 200, and they lose this series in like 6 or 7 games, they're gonna crucify him.
They're gonna be all over him.
They're going to kill this man, and I feel bad.
Is he gonna be calling? He's gonna be calling A-Rod for advice.
He should. It's not deserved, but that's what's gonna happen.
What happens? What happens to Aaron Judge if he plays poorly but they still win?
Nobody says anything. Nobody says nothing. Nobody says nothing.
He gets a pass.
No,
yeah.
Like.
But eventually, he has to win, though. I think he gets a temporary pass.
Put it in the back of their mind at all times and poke at them every time they get a chance. But we won that not because of you type thing. You know what I mean? But you're just part of the team.
Story,
like,
right?
You should have been getting paid that much money.
That's the A-Rod story in the Yankees till he comes through, right, in the postseason. It was like he ultimately had a good World Series, right? Like ultimately, but it was a A-Rod type thing, right, for a while.
And if you remember A-Rod was terrible in the postseason. I mean, we've seen postseason after he was bad in the postseason.
Remember how bad Barry Bonds was in the postseason?
Yeah.
Of course. So he came through. Yep.
Baseball is not built for a small sample. Baseball is built for a marathon, and we're judging these guys and what they do over a sprint. The extra pressure on Judge is he's not in that Dodgers lineup. We talk about Ohtani. That lineup, like you said, it goes Ohtani, it goes Betts, it goes Frick. They got Max Muncy hitting like 6th, bro.
Yeah,
They just keep coming at Tommy Edmonds winning MVPs, batting. Well, he hit 4th in Game 6 or whatever. But like, they've got guys that could share the load. The Yankees don't have that. They've got those.
They don't have as many.
Can I just share? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This postseason, like we talk about this on other shows. Pretty impressed with Gleyber Torres leading off. He's done a good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's done a good job. No, for sure.
Jazz is one of those guys that can really get hot. You're down on Jazz? I think Jazz can get really hot.
When is Jazz ever been? When is Jazz?
I'm not saying nothing on Jazz because I like Jazz is a good dude, but like he said, like if you really look at the numbers, Jazz ain't really ever done nothing.
He had the one year, he had a couple bombs. He got on the cover of the show.
He can get hot, but like they get hot, man. Jazz gets hot, and like we put so much emphasis, and he has so many highlights when he's hot that's what people live off of.
Yeah, I mean he was eating for 2 weeks when he came to New York.
Baseball, like you said, we're taking it. Baseball is a marathon over the long haul. So like for me, like.
Let me ask this too before we're coming up on the hour, and I want to put before I want to wrap it up with some historical stuff as well. But I did want to ask because two things that stand out to me when we talk about Shohei and like just kind of what he's doing and how like ridiculous it is. The fact that Shohei did carry Team Japan in the World Baseball Classic, and it was so high profile, championship game. Pitching against Team USA, gets the last out against Trout. Like he carried a lot of Team Japan through the WBC, and he kind of won that. And that's the first time you really look at Shohei, who, like Alex had said, we'd seen floundering and not floundering, but not, the Angels ain't the Angels. They're not doing well. This was the first time we could look at Shohei and be like, that dude's a winner, right? And then, you hear the news at the beginning of the season or in the off season, I guess based off of last season, that he's not going to pitch this year, but he's going to hit. He does. And you're like, oh, bummer. And then he turns around and does a 50-50 season, the first time in MLB history. So it's like, there's always this thing that's like Dodgers win or lose. It's like Shohei's good.
Oh yeah,
Shohei's good this year. Like Shohei doesn't like because again, you also think that they're gonna be back. So it's like Shohei won the WBC, Shohei's gone 50-50. What more besides pitching, which you'll probably do next year, what more can the man do? I don't get that same sense from Judge. Right? Judge didn't play in the WBC. Judge, you know what I mean? It's like Judge had a monster year. All accounts and points, a monster year. But it wasn't Shohei's year. So it's like I do think there's this thing where it's like, it's now or never for Judge. Like there's a feeling that the Dodgers are going to be back. I don't know. This might be the Yankees' best shot.
Yeah, I mean, the way that roster is constructed,
I mean, I agree. I mean, I definitely agree because I mean, again, like you said, for them to get back, they have to sign Soto back. Have to. That is number one on the list. Is they have to sign Juan Soto back if they plan on trying to get back. If they don't sign him back, they're not getting back.
Because Baltimore is here. Baltimore is here.
Alex,
that's what I'm saying.
Stab me in the heart right now.
Houston is
stab me in the heart with the O's.
Detroit is coming. Like baseball is tough, bro. And like they're here.
It's a marathon. It's a marathon. Gentlemen, as we wrap this up, it's obviously love the time we're in. I do love what this means for baseball. I do want to give each of you an opportunity just to literally talk about just 2024 in almost like a historical context. Like we're getting the World Series that a lot of people want, maybe not exactly the people on this panel, including myself as a diehard Orioles fan.
Oh, it's not mine either. Hey, you're all right.
But this year, from I guess kickoff in Seoul, Korea, when you have the Dodgers in the Padres and the story about Shohei break, we also forget that Shohei did all this in the midst of controversy and his best friend getting kicked out and $17 million stolen and all kinds of things. But we had some exciting young players in baseball. We had some exciting, just really I think when we look back at this season, there's some things that are upside down, like the AL Central, but there are some things that I think you can really be. Sorry, Jay. There's some things that you can be really excited about moving forward. There are players I think that you can be really excited about moving forward. There are themes if you look at who got in the playoffs, who didn't get in the playoffs, and what that means for going forward that we can really get excited about. Jay, I'll start with you. I'll go to Alex and Santos as well. When you just look at this kind of 2024 season for a baseball perspective, baseball fan perspective, optimistic, middle of the road, or we can do better? What did you think of this year?
No, this year was awesome, man. I mean, for a baseball fan and for me actually being able to watch baseball more than I really ever have this year because of my injury and rehabbing and whatnot, it was exciting. I prefer a little bit of the old baseball just because I feel like it is getting a little bit where the quality of baseball to me isn't as great as it once was because there's not as much thinking and the game is just moving quicker and guys aren't having time to process the situations as they should. But as far as fans in the time that we're in and the entertainment space that we're in, baseball's awesome. You get Shohei doing 50-50. Shout out Jose Ramirez almost getting 40-40 as well this year.
Yeah.
People didn't low-key know that we did a couple podcasts on it, but there's a lot of things going on. Bobby Witt's taking over. Like you said, Ellie's doing well. The swag that Jazz has, Luis, all the guys are just doing well, and the new crop of kids they have coming up with the veterans that are still providing great baseball for this entertainment era with Bryce, Salvi over there helping in the playoff baseball we've had. I think we're at a great point. I think there could be some compromises and some mixing and matching to help us get to a better product. But I think overall, it's an exciting time to be a baseball player, be a baseball fan, to just be involved in the game. And I tell people all the time, this is a time you should be watching baseball. You should be looking at it. You should be studying it. you should just be enjoying the moments that we have, because you're not going to get these all the time. Like, again, this World Series has been in the works for how long? And we finally just got it. Like, we finally just got it again. So I'm excited to see what's going to be next. I'm excited to be a fan after next year, because next year will officially be the last year. But after next year, I'm excited to see what's going to be next for everybody and just become a fan and enjoy the game myself.
Santos, can you jump to you? 2024. Obviously, this is the first year of the baseball aficionado, right?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes.
so this is different for you because you were watching every day, tracking every day, posting every day. So when you kind of put all of that in perspective, exciting year. What got you the most excited about 2024?
Yeah, so I just loved, boy, I tell you, I mean, there's so much, right? Like as Jay mentioned, just the quality of the product. While there's a lot of complaints about the timing and right with the clock, and people still getting used to that with the pitch clock and all that. But all things considered, I think they did a good job with the way the game was played between the lines, right? I think they're trying to do a better job with promoting the game. Obviously, they still need to do a better job with the inner city. We see this all the time. But I think they've done a good job. And as far as the Latino, the Hispanic, the Latinx market, obviously they continue to push away a lot of great Latin stars, all across the board, like the Jackson Churios of the world, Ellie De La Cruz, a nice, almost a career year for Francisco Lindor.
Mhm.
Obviously, there was a lot of great, and like you mentioned, Shohei 50-50. I have a love-hate relationship with Shohei, but right, because I feel like they kind of like shove him down our throats a lot. Um, and that's a bit annoying, and that's kind of not fair to him because he has nothing to do with it, right? So he's such a great player, but it's just that part of it kind of annoys me. Like in the not to go off on a tangent, but like when they showed the graphic, like 5 more batters until show. I mean, that was annoying.
Love
But
it.
I know I hated it. I hated it. But
Sticking in my veins.
that's like bit. Come on, like come on. But anyway, but I mean that was too much. That was overkill. Come on. But and then like the ridiculous, beating, knocking out Grimace meme after by Fox. But that's too much. Too much. They went too far. But all in all, it was a great season. I liked what Judge did. Judge had a very good year. Judge had a great year. Soto had a great year, and also I know the AL playoff. Just to wrap it up for me, the AL playoffs were kind of boring, but you know what? It's nice to have different teams in the playoffs sometimes. Like you had the Royals in there, the Tigers came out of nowhere. They were a great story. Like Tigers were a great story. They weren't the most fun team to watch, but they were a great story. So a lot of great things, and then there'll be a great matchup in the World Series. And obviously, my New York Mets, my beloved New York Mets, were in the playoffs. Anytime we're in the playoffs and with the OMG, and that we actually get to the NLCS, are you kidding me? It's a great year.
Alex, when you look back? I know, again, you follow closely every year. By your look, I know this by your dominance of all things fantasy. But besides that, when you look back at this year, anything particularly stand out, or the things that particularly get you optimistic about kind of baseball moving forward? Because all of us always talk about, like, we hear the rumbles that baseball's changing, baseball's dying. We have data that says probably otherwise. This is one of those years where it seems like there's a lot to grab onto.
Yeah, I'm pleased with kind of how the pitch clock became normalized because it creates a product for television that makes a lot more sense. When it first rolled out, I had an extra 30, 40 minutes in my night every night. I'm like, oh, it's not 10:10. It's only 9:22. What do I do for the next 40 minutes?
What do I do last
This is supposed to be the seventh
These
inning.
beers are going to drink themselves.
The thing I want to continue to see. I like the shift being banned. I want to see the ball in play. I want to see guys hitting 290. I want to see guys hitting 300. I don't want the guy leading the league in batting average to be hitting 311 or whatever. Like the ball's got to get in play. 3 true outcomes baseball is boring, and I need the strike zone. If you got to automate the strike zone, whatever. Let the ball get put in play. Let me watch these outfielders be athletic. Let me see these infielders show off their arms. Let me see these guys turning doubles into triples. The stolen bases back in a big way. Give me back the game that I watched in the 80s and 90s before it got inflated and just moved to where everything was either a walk, a strikeout, or a home run. I think that is going to let people see again how athletic these guys are and how much fun this sport can really be. So just keep moving. I think we're heading in the right direction. Let's keep moving that way.
Gentlemen, this has been a pleasure. Jay, I know you cannot go for the Dodgers, so we know where you are. What are your predictions as we round this out? Santos, how does this series end? Who do you predict wins?
All right, so this is one of those series that are really hard for me to get behind anyone, and I'm not getting behind anyone. But what I will say is this. I believe Dodgers in 6. And the one thing I was going to say was that the sentiment around a lot of Yankee fans and around New York is that the problem was the Mets and that the Dodgers are not that good and they will be able to hit their pitching. Yankee fans are going to find out that Dodger team is better than you think. And I think they're hot right now. I think the Dodgers in 6. I really do.
Alex,
I'm taking the Dodgers in 7. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm not taking the Yankees for nothing. I wouldn't.
He's the same way as me. I said the Yankees in 6.
I'll take the Dodgers in 7. I think that lineup is too long and too deep.
Pause
for this Yankees rotation.
Harlem ruins everything. Cameron, I blame you.
It's just there's too many bats there, bro. They just keep coming at you. I think the Dodgers have the better bullpen. I think the Yankees may have a little bit of a advantage at the top of their rotation, but starting pitchers don't win championships anymore. It's about your bullpen and it's about clutch hitting, and that Dodgers lineup is crazy. They just keep coming at you. And I think they're better defensively, and that's going to make a little bit of a difference too.
Jay, you said it as well. So you said Yankees in 6?
Yeah, I said Yankees in 6. Like I said, I'm going with, I'm just, again, I can't pick the Dodgers, but also my thoughts behind it also are the Dodgers bullpen, they're going to get used way more than we're thinking right now, because as much as we're giving the Dodgers lineup credit, the Yankees have a good and potent lineup too when it comes down to it. And like you said, you have to get through Soto, Judge, and Stanton, and if Rizzo's healthy and swinging the bat well, you have them. And then you said Torres, like you have quality at bats throughout that whole lineup that can do damage as well. It can make it real tough for any pitcher. And I think having a starting pitcher that can get through that lineup or get through the Dodgers lineup or any lineup 2 and 3 times helps take that pressure off the bullpen, where you know that you're not going to have to get taxed 2 and 3 innings throughout the whole series, where it's like, hey, I know if I throw 2 tonight, like I might be up tomorrow and I might get a day off, where normally I'm for sure getting a day off so I can be fresh. Like I said, I'm taking the Yanks in 6 just based on pitching and defense.
Well, selfishly, I'm going to go 7. I tend to lean with you guys. I think pitching is going to be the key, and I don't think it's going to be starting pitching. I also think, and this is just me, I think Dave Roberts is a better in-game manager than Boone is. And I think one of these games, at least one of these games in the series, is going to come down to a coaching decision. I trust Roberts to make the right one. I don't necessarily trust Boone to make the right one. I think one of these games may have to go to our homie Clay Holmes. Clay Holmes in the 7th or 8th before they get to Luke Weaver. I think Clay Holmes is going to do what Clay Holmes does. So I'm leaning Dodgers. I'm going to go 7. I'm hoping for 7. I hope they get an epic series. I want to see the stars perform at the height of their stars. I want to see Judge mash. I want to see Shohei mash. I want to see people really see how good Mookie Betts is. I hope Freddie Freeman is well enough that people can kind of see how he plays the game. Obviously, the Mets fans, unfortunately, it was Freddie was on a really bum wheel, like really bum. Like
we've seen
poor Freddie. Poor Freddie.
One of the genuine. From what I know,
poor guy.
know the man, but what I know, one of the genuine good guys in all of baseball, Freddie Freeman. So, I want to see Yamamoto. I want to see Rodon and Cole. Hopefully, do we see a Marcus Stroman appearance in this series? Is Stroman going to get a game?
I hope so.
I don't know.
I hope so. I would like to see him. I think we will.
You
I think so.
It'd be
Get
nice.
the Stroh
I
show.
feel like-
It'll be the Stroh show.
So
I feel like if we get Nestor, we should get Stroh.
yeah, again, Nestor. So hey, look, I'm going Dodgers in 7. Gentlemen, this has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this on a Thursday night. We will be back Sunday night. By that time, game 1 starts on Friday. Game 2 will be played on Saturday. And then Sunday's a travel day. So, take in your football, then tune in with us at the Black Baseball Mixtape. It'll be 8 p.m. Eastern. As always, the mixtape is brought to you in partnership with Stilo Sports, the Players Alliance, Horentia 21, Numbers Game Scorecards, Rebellion Harvest. If you have not subscribed to the Black Baseball Mixtape on YouTube, please do so. If you are interested in joining our absolute free Discord, please DM me on Instagram. We will send you the link. It's absolutely free. You'll have an opportunity to talk playoff baseball with us every day. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Alex, Jay, Santos. Make sure you follow each and all of these brothers. Brushback Podcast, the Baseball Aficionado, ESPN Daily. They've got big things